Russia's focus is turning to eastern Ukraine as the war there continues to rage. The governor of Kyiv says more than a dozen people have been injured in rocket attacks. Chris Livesay reports from Kyiv.
Russian troops have begun the battle for Donbas, says Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, setting the stage for major clashes of tanks and heavy artillery unlike anything we've seen since World War II, Ukraine says. It's a massive buildup in the eastern region of ongoing clashes, none more infamous than Mariupol. After weeks of resistance, now on the brink of doom. Russia has told its last die-hard defenders, holed up in this steel mill, surrender or die. But they refuse to give up. Looking for hope in cities like Chernihiv, north of Kyiv. It too was besieged for weeks. But against all odds, it was a triumph for Ukraine. Last month, shooting down this Russian bomber. It crashed into this home, killing the owner, but shockingly, no more. Its payload failing to explode when it landed on Nikolai's doorstep. So this is your house right over here. So it's just a matter of feet. That's unbelievable. He's so lucky. Others were not so fortunate. Some 50 people were killed in this apartment building, one of the deadliest single strikes of the war. All of a sudden, I was covered in shattered glass, says Larissa. She takes me into her bunker, where these women have been hiding for more than a month. At one point, they could barely fit. Here, 200 people were in here. Now we have lights, she says, but for a long time, all we had were candles. Are you afraid that they're going to come back? The war goes on, she says. We're begging your country for more weapons. We don't know what's waiting for us out there. And this morning, the same could be said anywhere in Ukraine. Moscow says it struck more than 1,200 targets overnight. Here in Kyiv, the air raid sirens have been sounding, with Vladimir Putin out to prove that even if his invasion is now concentrated on the east, nowhere in Ukraine is safe. Elaine, Vlad?
Right. Chris, thank you. To give you an idea of what's happening on the ground in Kyiv, let's bring in Nolan Peterson. He's been covering the war in Ukraine as the senior editor of Coffee or Die magazine. Nolan, welcome. Thanks very much for joining us. You just heard Chris Livesay say that air raid sirens have been going off there in Kyiv. What is life like in Ukraine's capital right now?
Well, I think if anybody came from another country and just parachuted into Ukraine, particularly here in Kyiv, and you experience the daily air raid alerts and the sort of calm, casual attitude that most people treat those alerts with, you'd be shocked. I think more than 50 days into this war now, people across Ukraine and here in the capital city of Kyiv have gotten used to this sort of constant danger in their lives. Here in Kyiv, because there is no longer a threat of a ground invasion of the city, Ukrainians have won the battle for Kyiv and Russian forces have retreated from the northern sector of Ukraine. Life has resumed a sense of normality, right? Schools are back in online learning, public transportation is running, the bars and restaurants and gyms are now open. Even Uber is operational again. So it feels like life is slowly, bit by bit, coming back to normal. But there is a long, dark shadow over this city, as well as over most of the country, particularly here in Kyiv. The scenes of just the horrible brutality and the atrocities that occurred just a few minutes away by car in the outlying settlements of Bucha and Irpin, as well as the ongoing violence in the Donbas, in places like Mariupol, and the suffering that people are enduring in the Donbas as Russia ramps up its second phase of the war, so to speak, with this offensive in the Donbas. Even though there is a sense of relief and even exultation here in Kyiv that their city is not going to sort of suffer the worst of this war, that is tempered and a bit dulled by the fact that the rest of this country is suffering. And it should be noted too that there is still a missile threat against this city. So although people have gotten used to the threats still do exist. And the mayor of Kyiv, Vitaly Klitschko, is still warning residents who have fled abroad to not come back because it is still a dangerous place to be.
Nolan, you yourself are a veteran. You've spoken to soldiers. What have they told you about what's helped them stay so resilient throughout this war? Obviously, being a soldier, you know that it's a very different scenario in the case of the Russians, who are an attacking force in a foreign country, as opposed to those that are defending their homeland, which can lead to that resilience. But what have they told you?
Yeah, so I've covered this war since it began in 2014, and it always just impressed me so much how committed the Ukrainian soldiers were to fighting for their freedom. And not just the soldiers, too. Remember, a great deal of Ukraine's fighting force comprises civilians who literally just threw on a uniform, grabbed a gun, and went out there to defend their street corner, their hometown, their country from Russian invaders. But for the past 8 years, Ukrainians have been fighting for their freedom. But after the brutality we've seen and all these atrocities and the targeted attacks on civilians since the February 24th full-scale invasion began, Ukraine isn't just fighting for its freedom, it's fighting for its survival. And so I think that gives the Ukrainian soldiers an incredible will to fight, which far surpasses that of their enemies. As a former soldier, particularly one who was, very much following the intelligence before the invasion and, taking stock of all Russia's firepower that had massed around Ukraine. In the early days, I had sort of a pessimistic attitude. I thought that Russia was probably going to advance much further and much quicker than they ended up doing. But my colleagues, my friends who are Ukrainian soldiers, they never lost faith. They always had this sort of unbending belief and faith that they were going to win the war from day one, no matter how dark things became. And you saw that too in President Vladimir Zelensky and his decision to stay no matter what. And so I think it is this absolute belief in the rightness of their cause, the fact that they're defending their hometowns, their families, their country, the existence of their homeland. It gives them a will to fight, which has to this point in the war overcome their material disadvantage with the Russians. And I think that, this war in essence has proven that the spirit and the will to fight of an army in many cases is more important than the firepower and the technology wielded by an opponent.
Well, Nolan, you moved to Kyiv in 2014 when Russia annexed Crimea. I'm curious, how have attitudes in Ukraine toward Russia changed over that period of time? Because certainly when you looked at the rhetoric coming out of Russia, some people point to that and say it was very well telegraphed what Vladimir Putin's intentions were. And yet I recall speaking to our reporters on the day of the invasion who were in Kyiv, who talked about even at that moment, people still sitting in cafes, not believing that war would ever come.
So there's a little bit of people, not believing the war might come, but also, this is a country that by that point on February 24th had been at war for almost 8 years. So people were sort of desensitized, I think, to the threat of a full-scale war because they've been living with the war, within a few-hour train ride of Kyiv, where I live, for years. And across the country, I think the idea of war is something that they just gotten used to and learned to live with. But Ukrainians have been at war with Russia since 2014, and they've always been clear-eyed about the Russian threat. And so since 2014, this country has had sort of an irreversible social, political, economic divorce from Russia has been set in motion by the invasion of the Donbass in 2014. But certainly since February 24th, and again, just to harp on this point, the brutality that Russia has shown towards civilians. And I'm a former Air Force pilot, and I won't describe it as indiscriminate bombing of civilians. It's deliberate bombing of civilians. Like, the Russian pilots know what they're doing. They're trying to kill civilians. And when Ukrainians see that behavior, particularly since that behavior is targeted in the East on populations which are Russian speaking, which Russia, claims that it's trying to help or liberate or whatever, they see that brutality. And so now there is a hatred among the Ukrainian people toward Russia that is going to last for generations. And if Russia had any fantastic notion that this war was going to somehow bring Ukraine or a portion of it back under Moscow's control, they've failed in spectacular fashion. There is no path, in my perspective, toward victory for Russia. They may conquer land, they may destroy cities, but the Ukrainian nation is lost to Russia forever at this point.
Such interesting perspective. Nolan Peterson, you've been there since 2014. Thank you so much for your insight. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on.